Welcome into episode 5 of Bloops and Barrels, a Big Ten softball podcast. I'm Ethan Siegel. He is Adam Beck. And Adam, we are rounding into March. The weather is turning, and that means softball is really ramping up.
It means we got Big Ten Conference play to talk about. I mean, it's been a couple weeks in the making. We were excited about it last week. Now it's officially here. We've seen some Big Ten series. We've got more this weekend. This is the time where things get really, really exciting.
It does, and let's not waste any time. Let's dive right in. There were 5 Big Ten series played this past weekend. 7 other teams in the Big Ten were still in the non-conference slate of their season, but we had 2 sweeps, UCLA over Wisconsin and Washington over Northwestern. The other 3 series, Minnesota, Indiana, Rutgers, Maryland, and Iowa, Ohio State, were split series. Which one of those series, Adam, in this first week of Big Ten play, back on the Big Ten Plus streaming network, getting to watch a lot of games there, which one jumps out to you that you really want to talk about?
Well, you know how much I love watching this UCLA team and following this UCLA team. And I thought going into the weekend, this was the series to watch, both for UCLA's perspective and for Wisconsin. Wisconsin, a team that I just feel like there's talent there, and they really showed that against UCLA in game one and in game three. They had early leads, really pushed the Bruins. But this is a UCLA team that I think that their identity is if you can score 38 runs in a weekend, then who really cares about the pitching? We've talked about the concerns with the pitching all season long, but Taylor Tinsley was actually really awesome. Picked up all 3 wins, had a 1.70 ERA, just allowed 3 earned runs across the entire weekend. It was just the rest of the arms that really struggled. But hey, when you've got Jordan Woolery winning her third consecutive or third Big Ten Player of the Week, not consecutive, Megan Grant still hitting bombs. I mean, this offense is just so fun to watch, and they keep doing it. I mean, they had 9 home runs and 16 extra base hits across the entire weekend. They've got 9 consecutive games now with multiple homers. They've homered in all but one of their games. Um, yeah, I think this UCLA team just continuing to be awesome, and more importantly, like figuring out ways to win, even when things get tough. Wisconsin, I'm not opposed to this team at all. Like I thought that they showed the fight. They had those early leads in game one and game three, as I mentioned. Um, I was still concerned about the pitching, obviously, and playing the best offense in the country wasn't going to help that. So interested to see how they kind of adapt moving forward. But overall, this was a really fun series, I think.
Yeah, it was. Obviously being one of the 2 sweeps of the weekend, maybe led to some of those games not being the most interesting, but I do think it was ripe for narratives. Speaking of, it's not my pick for the most interesting series, but shout out to Rutgers and Maryland for 2 of those 3 games being some of the best of the weekend, including that first game, which went 12 innings deep, an absolute barn burner that the Scarlet Knights ended up coming out on top, 6-5, and then Maryland coming back the next day winning 2-1. And last game not quite as close, but 2 one-run games, and those are 2 teams towards the bottom of the Big Ten, and they provided a really fun series. But the series that I really want to talk about, I would say, has to be Minnesota versus Indiana. And I think I'm more interested in this from the Indiana perspective, especially from the pitching side. You give up a total of 6 runs across the 3 games this weekend, and it's something I'm just really monitoring. Indiana, obviously, last year, a fantastic offense. They've brought that into 2026, but last year they were 14th in ERA, and this year, across 3 conference games and across 5 weekends of the season, they've been really solid. And especially once we got into Big Ten play, I was wondering if they'd kind of consolidate some of the pitching staff that we've seen early on, but it didn't really happen. 4 different pitchers played this weekend, and they were all relatively effective. Obviously, Ella Trout, the highlight there with the complete game shutout. The Indiana pitching staff, in some ways, makes me nervous because they're a low strikeout team from the circle, just 11 in the 3 games this weekend, but only allowed 4 walks in 21 innings across 3 games. And on the offensive end, they're one of the best teams. They're going to be towards the top in batting average. They're going to lead the Big Ten in steals, I imagine. And the power's been there too. They obviously lead the Big Ten in triples, that speed going hand in hand with the stolen bases. They've also hit 29 home runs at this point in the season, and that's in the top half of the conference. And I'm sure the Hoosiers are kicking themselves that they couldn't get the sweep done over Minnesota. They managed just 2 hits in the opening game against Sydney Schwartz, and that happens. But once again, this Indiana team just continues to look like the real deal to me.
No, I totally agree, and I've been saying that for a couple of weeks. I think that you got it spot on with the speed, with the stolen bases, the triples, and then if you're able to add that pitching, I mean, you've got 2 legit arms right now in Trout and Hooks that have really sparkling stat lines. Trout a 1.64 ERA, a sub 1 WHIP. Hooks a 1.42 ERA and a 1.05 WHIP on the season. Like you've got arms. And that was the question with them last year. Just could not have enough pitching to match the offense. This year, it seems like that is a possibility.
So I wanted to do a fun little game now that we have jumped into Big Ten play, and I want to do some sort of categories draft. We're obviously nearing fantasy baseball season, categories drafts, big in that world. But for the Big Ten softball season, I want to have us draft teams in six different categories: home runs, stolen bases, walks, batting average, ERA, and strikeouts from the circle. And so how this is going to work, we'll randomize in a second. I have a wheel pulled up and we'll just go back and forth, no snake draft or anything like that. But once a team has been taken for one of those categories, it cannot be reused for anything else. So once UCLA is off the board for walks, for example, you can't also take them in batting average. So we'll in total have 12 different teams represented, and the goal is to have the lowest score possible for the end of season rankings. For example, let's say you take Northwestern in walks and they finish fifth in walks, you will get 5 points for that. At the end of the season, whoever has the lowest will come back to this. They will be the winner. So, Adam, I have a wheel pulled up. I'm going to go ahead and spin it. We'll just do winner gets first pick.
Cool.
All right, that landed on Adam. So it's all to you. The board is yours.
Is there really a surprise with where I'm going with the 1-1? The power, the home runs, the UCLA Bruins, they're my squad for the year. I'll take them to lead the Big Ten in home runs. I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Do you think that is a relatively wise pick? So Adam takes UCLA off the board in home runs. So the Bruins are ineligible now in every other category. And it also means that I can afford to wait a little bit on my home runs pick because Adam can't pick another there. I'm going to go with what I actually think is the safest bet to be number one in the category. And I kind of just mentioned it. I'm going to take Indiana in steals. I'd be stunned if they did not lead the Big Ten in stolen bases this season.
Yeah, I mean that's clearly the pick there. I mean their ability to just infuse um, you know, trouble on the base paths with their speed makes things really fun to watch. Now I feel like we've got a lot of categories, whether it's stolen bases, walks, average ERA, and strikeouts, where I think a lot of different teams actually have a really good chance of leading. For strikeouts from the circle, give me Nebraska. I think
That was my next pick.
I think Alexis Jensen and Jordy Frahm are two really strikeout heavy pitchers. I think Oregon's a really good selection there as well, but I just think Nebraska has a little bit more strikeout stuff from the pitching staff.
Okay. Let's look elsewhere. I'm going to go. Ooh, all right. I have you've kind of blown up my draft board there, which, understandable. I was hoping to get Nebraska in strikeouts. But I will go ahead and I will turn my attention to ERA and I will select Penn State.
That's the right call, man.
Yeah. So we're going to go Penn State there and then back to you. I just feel really good about Bridget Nemeth. And obviously, it's actually not just been Nemeth, it's been a team effort so far early in the season. They also have a relatively favorable Big Ten schedule. So I think that'll make the ERA look pretty good. I imagine they'll finish somewhere in the top three, even if that's the first pick where I'm not convinced they'll finish number one in their category like those first three that we've talked about.
Yeah. Um, this is where things get really interesting. Um, I'm going to take I'm going to take I'm going to take Wisconsin for batting average.
Yeah, it's a good pick. That's
I
where I was
just
looking at
feel,
next.
and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, or at least last week, but I just think that they have got so many capable bats in their lineup. It feels like the entire lineup, top down. There's players that can put pressure. They've got three players right now hitting above 400. They've got six hitting above 300. As a team, it's a team that just continues to dominate at the dish, and that's why I'm going to take them for average. They're not gonna finish at the top. But if you can't have UCLA, you can't have Indiana. Give me Wisconsin.
Okay. This is where I think there's only one category that hasn't been filled, so I might as well get the jump on you in the walks department. Uh, and I will take the team that is currently season long leading the Big Ten of remaining teams in walks. They're currently third. I'm going to go with Washington in the walks category.
Okay. Um, Now it depends on who I think that you're going to take for other categories, it feels like. Um, you'll probably end up taking like Ohio State for home runs. So I don't need that anywhere else. In terms of here, let's talk stolen bases here. I think Purdue with stolen bases. I think that's another speedy team in the Big Ten. Mariah Poehler is probably gonna, steal a ton of bags. I'll take them for stolen bases. Get some Purdue recognition on the pod.
Well, that works out well for me. Um, because I'm really excited to take. Ooh, I guess there are two different categories I could take them in. I'm gonna go with Oregon and strikeouts.
That's nice. That means
Yeah.
that I have to
Feel
go.
feel very, very good about Lindsey Grine and Elisa Kolsky on there.
I think for ERA, then I will take Michigan.
Yeah,
I
it's the next one
think
off the board
I
there.
think that's the one that makes the most sense for me at this point. Um, really strong pitching staff, and like there are so many teams right now that you can't really tell what the pitching staff is. I mean, there's 7 teams right now in the conference that have sub 3 ERAs as staffs, and some of them are probably a whole lot of malarkey, and some of them probably are going to end up being that. I've seen what Aaron Haynes done before. That Michigan team is going to be really, really competitive, really, really good. I think the pitching is going to be a huge part why. So I think that's a safe pick for the ERA.
This board has not fallen how I was hoping from a batting average standpoint. Probably should have taken Purdue before you got the chance to, especially after Wisconsin was off the board, because now I'm really shopping in some lower bins here. Um, okay, we are going to pivot slightly from what I thought I was going to do. Uh, and we are gonna take Ohio State in home runs. That is the clear next pick in that department.
So then now I'm gonna do 2 things. One, I'm going to look at the average leaderboard in the Big Ten and just see what's happening. To
Oh, I'm
maybe
I'm already outside the top 10. I'm not feeling good about that.
to maybe I can mess with you a little bit. Um, because I only have one category left, and that's walks. Um, so for walks, who is my pick? I guess it's Michigan State. I mean,
Yeah.
right now they're tied for fifth in the Big Ten in walks. We'll take them.
And I'll round it up by taking Iowa in batting average.
Ooh,
I don't feel awesome about that, but I also don't feel awesome about Minnesota or Rutgers or Maryland or Northwestern with how some of those offenses have looked in the early part of the season. Uh, So wait, let the 5 teams that went undrafted, some of those ones I just mentioned, and one other that I'm clearly forgetting. But that rounds out our draft. So I've got Ohio State in home runs. You have UCLA. In stolen bases, I have Indiana. You have Purdue. In walks, I have Washington. You have Michigan State. In batting average, you have Wisconsin. I have Iowa. In ERA, you have Michigan, and I have Penn State. And in strikeouts, you have Nebraska. I have Oregon. I think I like your squad a little bit better, but I do think it'll be relatively close.
I do like my squad a little bit better. I think UCLA and Nebraska are near locks.
I
Uh,
do think Indiana's a near lock on the
and
other side, though.
Indiana's 100% a lock.
Yeah.
Indiana is as lockable as UCLA for home runs. But like Washington, Iowa, Penn State, I think it's going to come down to like what place these teams finish.
The
Um,
difference between like fourth and seventh is going to be really big
Huge
in some
is
of these
going to be
categories.
huge in this, especially. So, I think you have a little bit more chance of like blow ups with like Iowa or I don't know. Honestly, I think all of your teams are pretty safe for top 5, except Iowa.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Well, we'll
But
have
yeah,
to revisit that later in the season. But Adam, next up, we have another exciting series, an exciting weekend of Big Ten series, I should say. And it goes up from 5 series last weekend to 7 series this weekend. We have Iowa at Illinois, Rutgers at Indiana, Maryland at Washington, Michigan at Nebraska, Michigan State at UCLA, Ohio State at Purdue, and Penn State at Oregon. It is a weekend rampant with exciting storylines and what should be some amazing games. Which of those series jumps out to you just off of initial read through?
initially it's Penn State and Oregon. I just think these are 2 teams that right now I am still trying to figure out what they are and who they are. And I think they're trying to figure out who they are themselves. Penn State has been awesome this year. I'm still like not fully on the I believe in them quite yet. And then Oregon, same thing where, really awesome, one of the best teams in the country coming to the season, really slow start. They're still in the top 25 mix, but Are they really as good as those preseason expectations? So I think we're going to learn a lot this weekend. I thought we learned a good amount last weekend. Penn State splitting the weekend, they went 2-2, had wins over Radford and Boston College, then lost a game to James Madison and lost a really close one to Virginia Tech.
One they wish
Um,
they had back too against a
exactly.
really good Hokie squad.
Really, really, really good team. They're inside the top 10 now. But those two losses coming by 3 runs overall. Okay. Oregon, though, they lost to Nevada, but then, did the rest of what they need to do throughout the weekend. They went 5-1, wins over Nevada, Oregon State twice, and Sacramento State. But I mean, I think Oregon, from a pitching perspective, is so fun with Lindsey Grine. The offense has started to actually really heat up. Elon Butler is over 400. Ayanna Shaw is over 400. Taryn Ho is over 400. The power is starting to come a little bit. We saw Stephanie Maake wake up a tad. And then Penn State's just been so consistent with its offense all season long. Top 15 in the country in scoring offense. They're on the road for their 6th consecutive week. So challenging in the Big Ten as things start up. But I think there's so much here with good pitching overall for Penn State. How do they manage their what seemingly is like 5 arms that are capable in the circle? I think this is a sneaky, really big battle, especially early in conference play.
When we're talking about that series next week, if you had to guess some sort of lead storyline or who takes the series, what do you think we're talking about next week when we're recapping that series?
I think Oregon takes 2 of 3. I think Lindsey Grine has a fantastic series, and I think Elon Butler probably hits like 3 home runs. Yeah, 3. Give me 3. Give me 3 home runs for Elon Butler.
There you go. Lock it in. Well, for me, I'm going to talk about a similarly exciting matchup in large part because of amazing pitchers, very similar to Penn State, Oregon. Michigan, Nebraska is just an awesome, awesome series with awesome pitchers. For Michigan, all three of Gabby Ellis, Kat Myers, Aaron Hayne have been exactly between 41 and 46 innings pitched. All have been really, really good so far to start the season. And now in conference play, do we see a workhorse start to develop? You would think it'd be Aaron Hayne, but she's actually struggled the most of those three pitchers. But that being said, I'm just really curious to see how Michigan chooses to deploy its pitching staff. And for these two teams, obviously, we've talked a lot on this podcast about Jordy Frahm, about Alexis Jensen, but both of these offensives have been surprisingly closer to middle of the pack, a little bit reliant on the long ball. And I'm just really excited to see. I think the gut says Nebraska has a chance to win 2 of 3, if not sweep in this series. But I think it's a really big series for Michigan because they start the year at Nebraska and then against Washington. And those are potential chance for some really confidence wins early in the Big Ten slate or a setback. If you're 1-5 after 2 weekends in Big Ten play, that's a hole that would be very hard for the Wolverines to climb back out of. But a few weeks ago on this podcast, named one of my biggest X factors. I think my number one X factor was Indiana Langford, and she has been incredible since coming back. She's hitting 481. That doesn't even count the 9 walks in the 2 weeks since she's returned and a strikeout rate under 10%. So I think there's also a chance that as good as Nebraska is, and as much as we've talked about their pitching and some of their power on the offensive end, I think Michigan, with a really strong pitching staff from the circle and a team that can hit home runs, that might be the ideal build to have an upset against Nebraska and maybe steal a series if you can keep it low scoring, get a few long balls, because Nebraska, especially Alexis Jensen, has been very susceptible to giving up home runs. So I think it's a sneaky upset series, but also just two great teams, two pitching staffs that I'm excited to watch.
And a really good opportunity for Michigan to continue building its resume. I think this year in the Big Ten more than other years, you have great chances throughout the entire conference slate to pick up really big NCAA tournament resume building wins. Michigan's a team that will be in that conversation, no doubt. But if you steal one on the road at Nebraska, I totally agree with you. There's a chance for them to win this series. But I think this is also a really good opportunity for Nebraska to be like, hey, let's wake up. The offense is it's here. So I think both those things are totally at play this weekend.
And finally, Adam, our weekly recurring segment, our favorite segment, the best thing we saw in Big Ten softball world this week. I'll go ahead and start. And I want to talk about Big Ten women's basketball regular season champion Megan Grant, who played a few games, actually more than a few games this season with the UCLA basketball team, who should be the top overall seed going into March Madness. They just stormed their way through the Big Ten regular season, won the title. and just an awesome, awesome UCLA team. And I saw she had a video shouting out the squad. Obviously, she's rejoined the softball squad, but two sport athletes, and she's gonna get a regular season title. And just this past week in the Big Ten tournament, I don't know if you got a chance to watch that championship game, but the Bruins are they're just a absolute wagon. They have as good of a chance as anyone to take home the whole thing during March Madness.
It's such a fun team because you obviously the big star Lord bets. And the fun thing is she's taken a step back from a statistical perspective this year, and it's made everyone around her better. Like that Bruins team has truly so much talent and so much around her. I totally agree. They're as good as anyone in the country. Um,
Also, quick shout out. Did you get a chance to see in the Indiana Minnesota series the Indiana pink uniforms that they wore? I think it was
no, I
on
didn't.
Friday. You got to look it up. They were absolutely I'm a huge fan. Huge fan.
Okay, that was like an honorable mention.
Yeah,
Best
that's
thing you
my
saw.
honorable mention. Best Big Ten thing I saw this week.
Well, the best Big Ten thing I saw this week, and I hate is a strong word, but I'm not the biggest fan of Julia Gossett as a player from a Northwestern fan perspective, specifically last year in the Big Ten tournament. Yeah, Ethan's like,
Yeah,
don't
we have
mention
some
that
bad
name.
memories there.
But when a pitcher has given up one earned run in her last 30 innings of work, I think it deserves some mention. And Julia Gossett has been fantastic. She picked up her second consecutive Big Ten Pitcher of the Week. She had 3 wins in this past weekend for Purdue. 12 innings of work, one earned run allowed, 22 strikeouts, just 6 hits allowed. She had a shutout victory against Green Bay. She had 11 strikeouts in that game. Um, I mentioned the second consecutive Big Ten Pitcher of the Week on her, but how about in her last 7 games? Going back about 28 and two-third innings, she's given up one earned run at .70 whip, 50 strikeouts to 10 walks. Um, she's been unbelievable. And for this Purdue team, a team that I think that we both think is somewhere in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten, but has sneaky good offensive talent, really good pitching too. This is a team that's top 40 in RPI right now, early in the season. If Julia Gossett keeps pitching like that, not only is she the Big Ten pitcher of the year, I mean, if anybody keeps pitching like that, they're the Big Ten pitcher of the year. But Purdue has a really good chance of making an NCAA tournament. And that's a storyline not just to watch, not just to monitor, but to keep up with because this team could be really scary.
Without a doubt, they were one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten at the end of last season, and they've really carried a lot of that momentum into this season. They're absolutely a team who I think is worth monitoring, especially with that first RPI dropping this past week. And Purdue, not necessarily favorable metrics in that, but in a position where you pick up some good wins, some good series in Big Ten play, you're absolutely in that conversation. But that will do it for episode 5 of Bloops and Barrels. Please remember to like and subscribe on X at Bloops Barrels and at Instagram Bloops and Barrels. And be sure on the YouTube page to leave a like, comment if there's anything you want us to talk about. If we're not talking about your favorite Big Ten softball team quite enough. But that is a wrap on this episode. We'll see you next week.